Hi everyone, welcome to our Self 2024 edition 1, the introduction of self. And with our opening introduction video, we have shared on the completion of our 2024 discussion of self with Ribea Elise. And therefore today I want us to allow ourselves into the room of being introduced to you. Being introduced to you is an edition of self that we have started with the year 2022. It brought us through the year 2023, and this year 2024 we are ready to share on our complete season with Ribea Elise. I have mentioned before that walking a journey of seasons requires you many times to be ready for your own season. It is so often that we sometimes try to add up to other people's seasons of introducing and presenting ourselves. And therefore, with this very first edition of Self this year, that we are ready to set ourselves to that is your birthright, to represent yourself. We have mentioned before that so many times we learn to add unto someone else's fashion opinion, to add unto someone else's business opinion, to add unto someone else's requirement for where you find yourself at in season. But being a generation that are so young, a generation that find themselves in the office environment from a Monday till a Friday, 40 hours a week, having 2 days off a week, we are ready to say that we are ready to voice for that is presenting and representing yourself in your season. It is that we have worked hard for business owners, and we have learned to allow ourselves to start our own businesses. We have learned to allow ourselves to listen to what is fine and what is required for Ribea Elise in Ribea Elise's season. And therefore, with edition 1 and with introducing myself, I have had the opportunity and the advantage of really maturing in the human resources environment of office amongst our generation. And when I had the opportunity to really listen to myself, with where I found myself at in employment, I had the opportunity to get to know myself. It is that question that when you enter the interview room, that the interviewer presents to you the person that applies for the job, right? And today in our season with About Business, in our season with where I am ready to share on my opinion and my advice and where I'm at in my season, and I'm ready to color my seasons in its completeness, I'm ready to say that where I'm at, I had the opportunity to be introduced to me. Many times business owners start up businesses and they sometimes jiggle and jungle with what they want to do with their businesses. But for Ribea Elise, I had the advantage, I had the opportunity to own where I find myself in my career today, in owning my opinion out there today, in owning my voice what I voice in season, and in owning my complete self in my season. And therefore I know it's fine for us to say that other business owners had the opportunity to really take the lead in business. But with Ribea Elise, it is Ribea Elise taking the lead with where I have found myself at in my life's journey. It is that you learn to hold on to the you in that you allow yourself to own, and holding on to allowing yourself to own you is holding on to everything that you are presenting to someone else. It is not that we are presenting a career, or we are presenting a business that's gonna leave people halfway, that's gonna leave people distracted, that's gonna leave people with questioning themselves. It is that we have become familiar with what as business requires of our generation itself, right? And we are not only in self about discussing business, but business is a very part of where our generation find themselves at, of our daily bread, right? We are not a generation that finds themselves unemployed and that finds themselves having the provision that we require. We are a generation that has to earnestly work for our salaries, that has to earnestly work on a monthly basis to pay our house bonds, to pay our car bonds, to pay what we require on our table. And therefore, with Self 2024, it is everything Ribea Elise. So for everyone else who thought that they had a little bit of information of Ribea Elise and they ran with that, in the completion of the season's education, Ribea wants to remind everyone that everything about business is everything Ribea Elise. It is my upbringing, it is my birth education, it is my career history, it is everything that I represent myself about in my seasons. And therefore, with South 2024, we hope that everyone will enjoy the complete season that we are preparing for everyone. It's a season that's not a one discussion video, but it is a journey that we take our listeners in. So every edition video, every introduction video, every part of preparation in our fashion room, in our fashion business, with our Saturday photos and our fashion book photos and our Sunday fashion book photos, in the office attire photos that we share and that we're going to share on this year. It is every journey that we want business owners, that we want people that are ready to begin their own businesses, that we want people that has to make the decision on where they find themselves at in their careers. How do they decide upon their career journeys? Where do they find themselves at in having to retire and without having to exhaust yourself with years of employment, but not years of enjoying and appreciating self in all its amazingness of the birth womb. And that is where we are at with our very first edition, week 2, with the introduction Self with Ribea Elise. What I want us to now really focus on is the 4 seasons that we're going to focus on with Self this year. We're going to focus on that is our About Business attire, that is our season 1 of Self, edition 1 of Self. And with edition 1 of Self, we're going to take everyone through our career history. We're going to take everyone through our employment history. We're going to take everyone through our Ribea Elise's opinion when it comes to presenting yourself, whether it's in the office environment, whether it's at your church group, whether it's in your community, whether it's with a community initiatives, yes, whether it is in your household, parenting, is everything that has you in your season. And if there are so many to ourselves, even though I've had a discussion the year 2022 about the nails, and I said that I cannot stand why women are wearing these nails, but I know that in 2015 my sister introduced me to the fashion nails, and I know I chose my favorite nail color. And this season, we are presenting the differences of those colors in our Self edition 2024. I know when I've written my Evoke book, I've chosen my favorite season color, and autumn is my favorite color, yes. And I know in the winter season, you would find me wearing my autumn colors. That is an amazing tan color, and that is the nude colors that I love to wear on winter seasons, and that's my favorite nail colors. And with introducing everything Ribea Elise in this season, I want everyone to really remind ourselves of the journey that we have educated on the few years. There is everything seasons, right? We are women that are everything seasons. And when we are everything seasons, we allow ourselves to listen to that. That is the presentation you in all that are your seasons that you're required to present yourself. I know there's so many times that our hair grows short and we don't want to sew our short hair, where there's so many times that we've gotten so used to the hair weave that we don't want to reveal the natural hair. There's so many times that our hair has grown bald And we often want to hide that, but we are in a generation where we have to firmly allow ourselves to be presented to that. That is the environment around us. That is everything, the birthness of self, of the human being on this amazing earth. And that has been educated by my sister also on her social media pages, that on the days that the hair weave had disrupted her own hair, then she went with a bold hairstyle, and she was boldly deciding to give her own opinion of herself. And that is where we are required to be at, what allowing ourselves to listen to how do you feel about what you're required to do in your season. And with allowing ourselves to that, I want to introduce us to two colors of our season that we are so often being presented, right? And the two colors of our four seasons, right? We have our autumn season, we have our winter season, we have our spring season, and we have our summer season. And in Auckland, New Zealand, in the windiness and coldness of and coolness of the weather, it is actually summer season in Auckland. And in addition to, we're gonna do our spring season dress, but with our edition one, we want to focus on our Evoke business at the business logo photo, and we want to present that. That is, how did we become familiar with ourselves, right? Becoming familiar, the familyness of the you that is yourself when you stand in the nudity of this world, and the you that are yourself when you are all dressed up on any other day. How did you become family with that you? Familyness, the you that owns everything that you present in your season. And therefore, with allowing ourselves that, we have to be ready to listen to ourselves in our seasons. And therefore, the two colors that we are presenting today would be our color number one, that is our Evoke presentation, right? The family Ribea Elise. That is now not only the Ribea Elise that presents with the different skin color, with the different hairstyle, with the own hairstyle, and with the hairstyle differences in season, but there is a Ribea Elise that recognizes her birth womb, right? And I know that I've mentioned before in our birth womb, our European family line, yes, our different family lines that we have been introduced to, our African family line, and then there's the family lines that you can exactly see that you are part of, but that's not sometimes that you have been introduced to on your life's journey. And the Vogue business really presents everything color of season one, that represent our autumn season. And with our autumn season, with the Vogue business, we include that is the spring yellow blossoming, the summer yellow blossoming, that is that you adapt to own, and that you adapt to allow yourself to listen to yourself in your season. And therefore, with the different seasons and the different requirements of our business's autumn season is the color that we allow ourselves to listen to in our seasons. Remember, the most amazingness of autumn season for Ribea Elise is when the autumn leaf colors, the autumn leaves on the tree changes its color, then Ribea Elise finds herself in every essence of every color that I'm being introduced to. Whether I take a walk through the streets, and you know, Auckland, New Zealand is full of different colors and full of different trees. And when I take a walk on the autumn season, then I allow myself to be introduced to every color that the autumn season presents, and that the autumn season represents. Then it reminds you of your skin color, it reminds you of you in your season, and it reminds you of the different seasons that you might be introduced to. And that is our Evoke business dress logo. That is where we are at with our seasons, that we birth ourselves through seasons, right? Let me just say that again, the seasons that we allow ourselves to birth ourselves through different seasons, right? It is the season that you are born in, and it becomes that there are the seasons that you allow yourself to be reborn once again throughout the different seasons of life's journey. And with all that we have to introduce ourselves to, it is how do we allow ourselves to be introduced to, right? With all that in life's journey, right? With all that we are required to introduce ourselves to in this journey of life, it is what is the you that you allow yourself to introduce to someone else, right? And therefore we allow ourselves to listen to that. That is you in your season. How do you listen to you? By allowing yourself to be always ready to present the self season of where you find yourself at. Another thing that we want to discuss today, and that we want to discuss in the introduction of the 4 seasons of self, is the 2 different seasons that we have introduced just now. And the next area of introduction is the requirement to own your birth womb when you present yourself, right? The requirement to own your birth womb when you present yourself, knowing and realizing the differences that there are amongst humanity when it comes to the different nationalities, right? But that requirement that you owe to yourself, that you owe to your birth womb when you present and represent yourself in all that you are required to represent yourself, whether it becomes your daily job that you have to represent yourself. And so many times in the office we are required to dress a certain way, to transform a certain way, to speak when you are spoken to, all of the requirements that comes along with being employed in the office on a daily basis. We have one requirement that we owe ourselves, is to allow ourselves to hold on to our birth womb, to hold on to our birthright, and to always be ready to represent yourself. It is that when your manager calls you into the office, then we oftentimes want to transform into what the manager requires of us in the office, right? I've learned when I was employed that so oftentimes I changed in an instance of time to all that the manager in the office requires me to be. And I had to sometimes allow myself, to listen to myself, and to allow the manager to get to know the Ribea Elise in the office, rather than the Ribea Elise human resources person that the manager would want to be introduced to. And because everything that we do in life becomes us building office, right? So I always say that when you build office, when you build where you are at in the office environment, you have to allow yourself to voice your own opinion with where you are at in the office environment. And I know it's sometimes difficult for business employees, and sometimes difficult for business owners to get to know the people that are employed in the offices. But the times, the journey of office environment is being introduced to business owner, your journey in employment that you find yourself at. And therefore, we want us to be ready for that, that is owning our opinions and being ready to be introduced to ourselves when we find ourselves, whether in the office, whether working in communities, whether we find ourselves in our different church groups, whether it's a different country that you travel to. Allow yourself to present yourself. And we're going to discuss the reason why we have to allow ourselves to present ourselves, right? It is that when we look at the challenges that our generation have encountered over the years, right? We have to allow ourselves to introduce ourselves so that our generation will get familiar with every part of humanity, being part of the amazingness of earth and of the universe. And when we allow ourselves to always hold on to you, no matter the skin tone differences, no matter the language differences, no matter the state that the country finds themselves in, no matter if we're dealing with first world countries that sometimes want to disown third world countries, but it is that for our generation, we have to allow ourselves into the room of ourselves. We have to allow ourselves into the room that creates generations of young people and generations of human beings that will always find themselves ready to introduce themselves wherever they find themselves at. It is one of the things that humanity has gotten most challenged about is the transformation that we will require to transform to, right? And the transformation becomes an office, it becomes a business. We have mentioned in one of our previous videos that everything we do becomes business and becomes office, right? In Leading This Generation videos, we discuss a lot who holds office, and everything that we do becomes an office that are being constructed and that are being structured in accordance to the requirement of mankind on earth. And therefore, when there's so much happening, we have to allow ourselves to be ready to always own your own office, to always own your own business, to always own your own opinion, to always own the you in the season that you find yourself at. And that is where we are at with our week 2 of edition 1 with ourselves 2024. We're gonna just now share on this is our full introduction, and we're gonna just now share on our video that's up and coming after this video that we would be preparing on the different colors in your season, right? And that we want to hold on to the complete introduction of the different seasons, hand in hand with the different colors that we walk with in being introduced to our different seasons. We've mentioned in our previous videos and podcasts that every season requires a different response from us. And when we respond, we get familiar with the sound in our seasons. And when we were introduced to the 4 seasons that mankind experiences on earth, we were introduced to the 4 seasons that were named the autumn season, the winter season, the spring season, the summer season. When we were introduced to the 4 seasons, we learned that for the 4 seasons are being introduced to different nationalities at different time frames amongst humanity on earth. For us in Auckland, New Zealand, the September season is our very first season for Ribea Elise that I was introduced to, but it is the spring season of the year. And for Ribea Elise, that is the January month of the year. For Vogue business, it has always been when we began a Vogue, we have allowed ourselves to listen to our January month season, that is our very spring season, that is Auckland, New Zealand, for the month of September. And also for South Africa, I grew up at the primary school New Orleansville, and while we were sitting at New Orleansville outside, and during the winter times we had to sit inside, and there was not a lot of protection for the rainy days. And on the days that we had to sit outside, I was introduced to the spring season, and I was always excited to celebrate the glossiness, the colors, the blossoms of the spring season. And therefore, with our journey, with our 4 seasons journey, we're gonna allow ourselves to listen to the different seasons and my experiences in the different seasons. When we allow ourselves to listen to our experiences in the 4 different seasons that I've experienced in my 40 years of being on earth, then we allow ourselves to be introduced to how are you required to represent yourself in the different seasons that you find yourself at. We always also educate that on Vogue fashion, our fashion wardrobe for every season, and we hold on to our own opinion of what we wear and where we find ourselves at in the season that we present. And for us, that is holding on to yourself in the different seasons that you experiences. That is it with the conclusion of edition one, the full introduction. That includes our very first introduction of week one, the complete readiness for our journey this year with Ribea Elise, that are South 2024. That is it, everyone. Have an amazing South season with us.